Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this black-green life-gain control deck featuring our commander, Professor Dellian Fel. A 4-mana planeswalker, starts out at 5 loyalty, can +2 to gain 3 life, which immediately puts it in ultimate range on the following turn, where a -6 gives us an emblem saying whenever we gain life, target opponent loses that much life, which is an effect that can go infinite if we pair it with either Exquisite Blood or Bloodthirsty Conqueror, which have the opposite effect. So then if we either gain life or make the opponent lose life at any point with both of those in play, we can infinitely drain the opponent to death. So that's also an element of our game plan. Otherwise, we're mostly looking to control the board, maybe ramp into our commander on turn 3 ahead of schedule, and then we've got a few other planeswalkers to kind of set up this Super Friends playstyle where we have a lot of board wipes and then planeswalkers to take over the game. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories, starting with our spot removal. This includes some nice cheap instant speed answers, as well as some more flexible answers that can not only hit creatures, but some other non-land permanents as well. Then we've got our ramp section, mostly 2-mana artifacts or sorceries, so we can maybe set up our commander on turn 3. And then we've got some sweepers as well that can hit multiple creatures at once, sometimes even hitting some non-creature permanents as well. And then we've got some more card draw engines that we can pair with our commander. Most of these also require some form of life payment, especially Sylvan Library and Bolas' Citadel, so then we can maybe offset those a little bit with a life gain from our Professor. And then we get to our planeswalkers, and most of these can answer creatures as well as draw additional cards, so they all complement each other very nicely. And then our miscellaneous section has our 2 combo pieces, Exquisite Bloods and the Bloodthirsty Conqueror, as I mentioned, as well as some more creatures to round it out. Most of these can also offer a bit of disruption or additional life gain. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our spot removal, I do have 2 discard effects with Duress and Thoughtseize, since we're mostly worried about non-creature cards that we want to take away, since we can easily handle the creatures, and then some cheap removal and Cut Down and Fatal Push, as well as Dismember if we're willing to pay a bit of life, and same with Snuff Out. If we control a swamp, we can cast it for free at the cost of 4 life. Then a few instant speed answers that can also hit planeswalkers, such as Bitter Triumph and Sheoldred's Edict. We've got Go for the Throat for non-artifact creatures. Tear Asunder, another flexible answer that can cheaply answer artifacts and enchantments, and if we play it with Kicker, can exile any non-land permanent. Abrupt Decay can also answer cheaper artifacts and enchantments alongside creatures. Same with a Witherbloom command, which can also maybe drain the opponent or maybe get a fetch land back out of our graveyard. Oath of Liliana plays nicely in this Super Friends style of deck where we've got multiple planeswalkers, so we can make some additional zombie tokens for free. And then Binding is another one of my favorites that can answer any non-land permanent when it enters, and then ramp by searching a forest on Chapter 2. Casualties of War is also excellent, as it can often get a nice 3 or even 4 or 5 for 1. And then the March of Wretched Sorrow can also gain us a bit more life back, and Pest Infestation can answer multiple artifacts and enchantments at once. Then in our ramp section, we do have Dark Ritual, because casting our Professor on turn 2 with a Ritual is incredibly powerful. Exploration can also maybe set that up if we have enough lands in hand, and since we have so much card draw throughout, I'm usually often going to be able to play 2 lands even in the late game, so I'm okay with Exploration, whereas usually you want to pair this with effects that let you replay lands out of the graveyard, so you can replay a fetch land over and over, still have one of those, but again, since we have enough card draw, I think Exploration is still good enough. And then the Terminus as an indestructible artifact can also maybe harness it to get our creatures back out of the graveyard. And then we've got some of the other ramp cards here like Explore, Farseek, Glimpse the Core only gets a forest, Rampant Growth, and Shared Roots can get Ether Basic. And then a few of the ramp artifacts that enter untapped, so we can immediately tap them for mana if necessary. Mindstone we can also sacrifice to draw. And then the Cornucopia has a bit of a life gain synergy with the Professor, so those also play well with each other. Cultivate is just a nice 2 for 1, and then the I Still Explorer can also be very powerful with our fetch lands, especially being able to replay them out of the graveyard in addition to playing an extra land each turn. Then our sweepers include Toxic Deluge and the new Vicious Rivalry, which is similar, although slightly different, can also answer artifacts with it. So that's part of why I'm avoiding too many ramp artifacts, since they might also get blown up by the Vicious Rivalry or by our Culling Ritual, which will destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 2 or less, although we do get some mana in return. And then Withering Curse is also very powerful with a Planeswalker that can gain life. Damnation at 4 is very reliable. And then we also have Snow, Forests, and Swamps in the mana base to support Blood on the Snow to destroy all creatures and maybe get a Planeswalker or creature back out of our graveyard. And the Meathook Massacre is another board wipe that can also gain us some life. Then we've got our card draw with Cling to Dust giving a bit of a graveyard hate as well, which can be useful. Night's Whisper just draws 2 at the cost of 2 life. Sylvan Library is a recent addition to Arena, a pretty tricky card to play with, but very powerful, especially with shuffle effects, like from our fetch lands and our various ramp cards that search for lands, since we can now easily manipulate the top of our deck, so we can still look at the top 3 cards each turn, maybe keep one of them without having to pay any life, but then just keep the best one out of the top 3 and maybe shuffle away the rest. And then Black Market Connections and Phyrexian Arena can both draw additional cards at the cost of some life. The connections can also make treasures or shapeshifters. And then Bolas' Citadel, another favorite card of mine that can start playing spells off the top of the deck at the cost of some life instead. So also very good with a bit of life gain to offset it. And then our other Planeswalkers include Liliana of the Veil to maybe attack the opponent's hand. If we are drawing 2 cards per turn with a Professor, we can easily discard one to make our opponent do the same. Obnixilis Reignited can also destroy creatures or draw cards, so it's quite similar to our commander, and can also set up a powerful emblem. And then Liliana Dreadhorde Generals, one of the more powerful Planeswalkers out there, making zombies. When they die, we get to draw a card. Can also make each player sacrifice 2 creatures right away. And then Professor Onyx has plenty of instants and sorceries to enable Magecraft to gain more life. And then Vraska can also maybe help us proliferate with the 0 ability. So if we have Vraska in play, we could play the Professor, proliferate with Vraska, and immediately emblem the Professor if that's our goal. And then Garruk Apex Predator is especially good at dealing with opposing Planeswalkers, which are sometimes a weakness of control strategies, and this is just a fun Planeswalker to mess around with, and I don't get to play with it all too often. And then our miscellaneous section includes Vampiric Tutor, has the only real tutor effect, can find whatever we need, whether it's a sweeper or maybe one of our 2 combo pieces. We've got Exquisite Blood in enchantment form, and Bloodthirsty Conqueror in creature form. And then the Opposition Agent can also catch people off guard, punishing opposing search effects like fetch lands and other ramp cards. Then Shieldred also has great synergy with our commander, as we can gain additional life for drawing cards, while punishing the opponent for doing the same. And then Thragtusk can immediately gain 5 life when it enters, leaves behind a beast when it leaves the battlefield. And Titan of Industry is pretty similar, can also immediately gain 5 life and generate a 4/4 token, but can also blow up artifacts and enchantments, or maybe put a shield counter on one of our more important creatures. And then our mana base has plenty of snow-covered lands for Blood on the Snow, Boseiju to blow up artifacts and enchantments, and then a few utility lands, including the Restless Cottage as a creature land that can also make a food token to gain more life, and a few of these colorless lands gaining 2 when they enter, Adventures Inn, as well as a Radiant Fountain, and then plenty of fetch lands to enable I Still Explorer and to make cards like a Library more effective, as we can now shuffle our top cards away. And then Gemstone Caverns can give us a nice boost when on the draw, and the Library of Alexandria, also a recent addition that's incredibly powerful in a control shell. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Grist, Voracious, Larva, so they'll try to get it back out of the graveyard to transform it into the Planeswalker. My hand is reasonable, lacking a bit of mana. May struggle to get up to 5 and 6 for Thragtusk and Liliana. And I guess my Witherbloom Charm doesn't answer Grist by itself. But I can get back my fetch lands and maybe take care of something else. Their opponent starting with Gemstone Caverns. Was kind of hoping they would play some 2-mana artifact we could destroy. Also have the Rivalry. It's just going to be a Grist for now. A Library could be very powerful. Yeah, I mean, I could just play a Library and pass. And then next turn we can start activating it. as opposed to Witherbloom commands, getting back a fetch lanes and not doing anything else. The Overlord's gonna fill the graveyard. And yeah, the Accursed Marauder is pretty decent. So step 1 activates a library. And then I'm not in a hurry to do anything else. Our opponent has a Ghost Rider, so that's a way to get Grist in the graveyard to maybe get it back. Cut down the draw. So, couple options. Don't hate going for a Toxic Deluge here, after maybe drawing with a library. Now find Sylvan Library to go with our Library of Alexandria. So our opponent can sacrifice a few things to scry. So then when Grist comes back, I do not have an immediate answer. Opponent just recasting it out of the command zone instead. Okay, I mean, we can keep playing the library game. Could also tap out for a Thragtusk. Could also play the Prof, just gain some life here. And let our opponent overextend into the Vicious Rivalry.
I need answers.
Gotta discard to hand size. Maybe Witherbloom command's not needed anymore. Could ditch a land. Can always get one back with the Witherbloom command. Bitter Triumph answers my Planeswalker. Back to the command zone. And our opponent's gonna reanimate Yawgmoth. And Grist transforms in the process. Okay. So yeah, that's meaningful pressure now. I probably want to wait on Rivalry until they get the Overlord in play. So now Abrupt Decay answers Grist. Tapping out for Liliana was also an option. Just make a zombie. We'll draw with Library. And then I could play another library out. Now Yawgmoth does make it so they can at least sack their creatures to draw on the way out. They might escape Ghost Rider here. It's gonna be Grist once again. No need to cut it down when we can just Rivalry next turn. Calling Ritual is also interesting. So I can draw additional cards and then just put them back. So I don't think I need the Calling Ritual when we're gonna Vicious Rivalry. So I'll just keep the fetch to shuffle those away. And then, let's see, I may want a Library of Alexandria first, actually. Still draw the Ritual anyways. Then shuffle. Forest is fine. And then a Rivalry. And then we'll have to pay 5 life. Since it looks at mana value. So we are down to 9, but we've got some life gain in hand as well. So all these triggers resolve. Opponent will have a full grip. Could still decide to Witherbloom command just for a bit of life gain. I think I just keep up cut down and make it easier to leverage the Library of Alexandria. Opponent's got a Pitiless Plunder, that one I can cut down. I think I still wait to do it after I draw. So then here, not in a hurry for any of these in particular. So I want to first draw with Library. And then I can cut down. And then I think I like Liliana here over Professor. Although that's also a close call in case I maybe picked up more Planeswalker removal. I might prefer the Prof. So I can gain some life and maybe set up the ultimate next turn. Because we are not short on ways to pay life here with the Sylvan Library, Knight's Whisper. So having a bit more life gain could be useful.
Never take growth for granted.
Opponent gets back the Conscript. So I guess that can delay the ultimate. And a Playcrafter can also hit Planeswalkers. Alright, at least I'm glad I held on to Liliana. Find a Conqueror, Professor Onyx, these are all great. So kind of like a Dreadhorde General, make a zombie this turn.
March into battle and make new comrades.
And suppose I could Knight's Whisper as well. Opponent had a Shieldress Edict, so yeah, more Planeswalker removal. They are not running out. Any change of plan based on that? Yeah, I'll just draw 2. Might be time to run out of Thragtusk. Alright, Crocodile stabs my zombie. And a Terra Sunder could be a nice way to exile the Conscript. So these can go back. And then, let's see here, currently I have 8 cards in hand, now 7. Professor deals with the Crocodile, that's 6 mana, and then I can still kick Terra Sunder on the Conscript. So I think we're giving up on Library for a little bit here.
Witherbloom is just as dark and must. It was going to die eventually anyway.
Conscript attacks. Could have done this before they took their draw step in case they have some sacrifice effect that they can use at instant speed, but they do not. So we now have an active Planeswalker, and our opponent's out of Planeswalker removal and scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Haliya, so mono-white life gain. So removal and sweepers are going to be at a premium. This hand is maybe lacking in that department a little bit. Cut down doesn't answer Haliya, but I'm sure we'll find some other targets. Don't have a fetch line to go with the Explorer. I don't think our opponent's fetching much or searching much since they're a monocolor deck. So yeah, overall I think we can do better. This seems a bit better. Hoping that the Meathook Massacre can clean things up. Maybe lacking a bit of ramp to set that up. And Giver of Runes is something we can easily handle with the Meathook. And now Mind Stone for a bit of acceleration. Alright, Thalia's gonna make my non-creatures more expensive. Calling Ritual still looking pretty decent. So I guess we're just playing Mind Stone as our only option. And then next turn I could go for something like Shieldred. Although it's possible I still want a Calling Ritual if I draw land, even if it blows up my own Mind Stone. Uneaten Feasts, Sarah Ascendant, so yeah, Calling Ritual is looking good. And I can now cast it. So then 5 permanents would get destroyed, which is enough to still play the Professor or Shieldred afterwards. Could get a little greedy and play Shieldred first, just to maybe have them overextend even more. But nah, this is good enough. And then if I want to use all my mana, I suppose I can also go for Obnixilis here. So this is -8 to make an emblem that's similar to Shieldred's ability. For now, Essence Channeler and Fatal Push, a very nice answer. Yeah, let's just play the Professor. And then I can draw even more. Can also destroy the Channeler, although Fatal Push seems to cover that. So maybe I'll start here just to check that they don't have a way to protect the Channeler. They actually did. Could have also started with a -3 from the Prof and then still Fatal Push. Now Meathook Massacre will clean it up nicely. Could do it for just X = 1. So yeah, Obnixilis is getting close to an ultimate. We do have Exquisite Blood to combo with the Professor's Emblem as well, to just win the game on the spot. So, options aplenty. Yeah, maybe we build towards the Professor's win condition here. So then, play the Prof, plus, can still Glimpse, Obnixilis destroys a Enduring Innocence. Then I still need a way to gain life after playing Exquisite Blood, which I might be able to with the Meathook Massacre if I just -3 Obnixilis again. So yeah, I think that lines up fine. Could have also just built up towards Obnixilis Emblem. So there's a few ways to go about it.
My job is to teach. Yours. The right spell turns poison to medicine.
So yeah, the plan is Emblem, Exquisite Blood, destroy creature with Obnixilis, triggering Meathook Massacre, which will then take care of the rest. But yeah, opponent's got a Witch Enchanter, which deals with the Meathook. So that plan is no longer going to work. Now, of course, we are still in great shape. So, still want Emblem. So I don't have a way of gaining life right now. But of course, Shieldred can set it up for next turn. So then we can just go Exquisite Blood, and now Radiant Fountain can also seal the deal. Opponent runs out Haliya. And Authority. But yeah, this game was pretty much decided by that Culling Ritual early on. And our opponent's just going to scoop it up before even seeing the Exquisite Blood. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Raph and Mikey Troublemakers. So instant speed removal is essential, and Snuff Out certainly fits the bill. That being said, I'm on the play, so I can't actually make green mana with this hand to explore and cultivate, and then we're very far from casting either of my other planeswalkers. So despite the Snuff Out and the Swamp, I think I have to mulligan and hope that our other hand doesn't disappoint. Yeah, this seems decent. Terra Sunder can function as instant speed removal. And with the Dark Ritual, I could run out my commander on turn 2. We'll have to wait and see what our opponent's got. We've got answers to cheap mana artifacts. But if they ramp by just putting additional lands into play, we may not be able to interact until they play their commander. For now I can surveil, looking for more lanes. Damnation is not quite good enough in this matchup since we need instant speed removal. The rest could be okay, but yeah, it's time for Dark Ritual into a turn 2 Professor Dellian Fel. And we're nowhere close to setting up a combo with the emblem, so let's just draw. Try and hit some more land drops.
Your assignment is due.
Opponent does indeed have a Farseek. And Sheoldred's Edict was another amazing draw. Try and find a land, which we found.
Show me what you've learned.
So now Mindstone plus Duress seems fine. Can Duress first. And our opponent had a Dragonstorm and an Ironcrag. Take the Dragonstorm, since we can answer the Ironcrag. And then a Summon Bahamut, which they can also try to ramp into. So yeah, don't hate my spot. Binding takes care of the Ironcrag. And then we have 2 instant speed answers for Raph and Mikey. Still probably drawing with the Prof, although we're getting maybe to the point where we can think about the emblem. Opposition Agent is also a way of shutting down additional ramp cards that search for lanes. So yeah, I guess if I blow up the Ironcrag, unless they have a ritual effect, they won't be able to play Raph and Mikey yet. So it should be safe enough to go for a binding. But something like a Pyretic Ritual or Seething Song, especially Seething Song, could still see them cast their commander next turn. Because yeah, with Pyretic they would still be 1 short. Ironcrag Feet is another one, but that one's triple red, and they, as far as we know, do not have a 3rd red source. Alright, so now I'll have to keep up my instant speed removal. And yeah, could still draw to try and hit an extra land, although we did just put one in play. So maybe I can work up towards an emblem. Now let's just try and find more interaction. Can flash an opposition agent. Does Raph and Mikey search? It just reveals cards, so opposition agent would not really interfere. Opponent does nothing. Still gonna play the agent. Yeah, I guess they're still only on 6 mana. And then now Bolas' Citadel is pretty exciting. Although I don't want to play it and then be in a spot where I don't keep up my Sheoldred's Edict. I think it's still worth it. I'm pretty likely to find a land. Can always draw with a Prof. So Cling to Dust draws Abrupt Decay. Rivalry I can cast for 0 even though it's still going to cost me 4 life, or I can use the prof. Yeah, let's just draw with the prof, maybe. There's my lands, and another land on top. Okay, so I get to hit for 3, keep up Edicts as my main interaction. Terra Sunder doesn't quite work on a creature for just 2 mana. And our opponent's not even going to bother since they suspect interaction, so their plan might be to ramp out Summon Bahamut. Although now with Bloodthirsty Conqueror we're close to setting up our combo. So we'll plus to Tyrant's Emblem next turn. Could already play Conqueror right now. Could also go for something like a Garruk. Let's pay 5 life to play the Conqueror. Liliana can make each player discard.
Happy to help, but I'm taking drop it.
Play a lands, a library coming up. So I can hit for 3. Which gains some life. And then let's see here, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I could play Garruk and then still keep up Sheoldred's Edict. And we'll just make a beast. Alright, I mean, next turn with Emblem we should have it. Opponent's got Raph and Mikey, maybe with a spare mana to protect it. But yeah, even a hexproof trick is not good enough to play around Sheoldred's Edict. As long as I select the correct mode here. And there we go, awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Vivi, blue-red spells. Our hand's got a lot of ramp, but no interaction, which is probably what we need against Vivi. Of course, a Professor can destroy it, but I would prefer having access to at least one more removal spell. Okay, this could work. Now I don't have any ramp, but yeah, Culling Ritual can also blow up any mana artifacts that the opponent might play. And we can surveil towards more mana, whether it's an extra land or a ramp card. Take the land. Can keep up Cling to Dust. Opponent with a Mystical Tutor, already searching something up. Could technically channel Boseiju to maybe force a shuffle, although I guess they only have the basic, so it's not quite gonna work. Curious to see what they search up, maybe a counter spell or some protection effect. It's gonna be a Strike it Rich to make a treasure. Alright, not the most terrifying card. So now if they cast Strike it Rich, we can exile it with Cling to Dust before they can flash it back. Play Terminus, and then I'll still have Bitter Triumph available. And as an indestructible artifact, it doesn't get blown up by Culling Ritual, so that's useful. No way our opponent taps out for Vivi here. Alright, so if I go for the Professor, it gets countered almost every time. So I prefer waiting a turn, so we can at least Bitter Triumph alongside the Professor. Pirate's Pillage will make more treasure. So at least now, if our opponent has a counter spell, they'll have to sack some treasure to cast it. Opponent had a wash away for 1 mana. That happens. At some point we could leave it in the graveyard to exile with Escape, but don't quite have enough cards for that. Opponent with a 1000-Year Storm, alright, so Casualties of War. And looking like a fine answer, also have Boseiju. But yeah, I think we try Casualties. Now Binding is probably even better. Although Casualties also cleans up the treasure, destroys a land. So, has pretty high upside. If this gets countered, I might regret not keeping up some additional interaction. Alright, that works. And I don't expect my opponent to play many creatures where we can get the full 4 or 5 for 1 with Casualties. Recollection, discards, seek 2 cards. Opponent getting 2 sorceries here. Alright, Phyrexian Arena's nice. Could also replay my commander. Yeah, let's play the Professor. And then could try and set up the ultimates. Not that we're gonna gain a ton of life in the near future. So, let's just draw.
Your assignment is
Yeah, let's just Rampant Growth. Possible our opponent can give Vivi haste and then start activating it right away. But it's the nerfed version that needs to tap before it can make mana. Paradox Engine is scary, but we do have a Binding to get rid of it. And now Ice Still is pretty nice too with the fetch lanes. So maybe now I'll consider gaining some life since I can spend my mana. So let's first make sure the Binding resolves. And our opponent's gonna scoop it up, could play Ice Still, and then still play my fetch lane twice to play Phyrexian Arena. Professor can maybe gain some life. And then if we draw into any of our big life gain effects, we can quickly end the game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Shadowheart. So they can specialize it into a 4/4 Death Touch lifelink. Okay, so we want creature removal, have Dismember and Withering Curse. So this looks good. Looking for maybe some 2-mana acceleration so we can play the Professor on turn 3. Although Black Market Connections is a fine play early on. I see opponent is actually red-black, so they can also specialize into the Cleric of War. Okay. The Signet and Mox we can maybe blow up with a Rivalry. So don't really mind seeing those. So I'm actually gonna maybe decline on the Mind Stone. Of course I can also sacrifice this. So maybe it's good enough to keep. But yeah, ideally we sacrifice this before casting the Rivalry. But now it opens up a few more possibilities, such as maybe Connections plus Dismember. Opponent actually with a Necro to draw a bunch of cards here. Yeah, that's a lot of card advantage, and as a control deck we're not really gonna punish the life loss. So that card is very good against us. So our opponent drawing 10 cards. They will have to discard to hand size. And then I guess our opponent can easily specialize since someone will be at 13 or less life. So they can maybe make a 4/4 Death Touch. Alright, so could play the Professor, gain some life, maybe draw a card, or we can get the Black Market Connections going, keeping up Dismember. And then with the treasure, I can maybe more easily sack the Mind Stone and cast Rivalry. Opponent's got their own Mind Stone. And they're gonna pass a turn. So, yeah, let's just choose the first two modes, since I'm probably gonna wipe the board soon. And then could play the Professor and leave Mind Stone untapped, so we can still sack it end of turn. And then I'm probably gaining some life here to try and set up the ultimate.
Follow my instructions, and you might survive. I have life essence to spare.
Opponent with a Vampiric Tutor, alright. So what do they want to get? We're not going to find out. Opponent can draw into it with a Mind Stone. I doubt it's just Planeswalker removal, it's probably something big. For now, Shadowheart. Can wait for them to specialize it before casting the Dismember. Okay. And now a Toxin Analysis. Alright, so I guess we'll Dismember in response. And I'll save the treasure. Shadowheart down. And Necro's gonna draw some more. Yeah, they are running low on resources now. They were maybe hoping to give this lifelink so they could gain a bunch of life back. And Exquisite Blood. Could just be game over here. And yeah, now with the command we should get there. So we get an emblem. Whenever we gain life, our opponent loses life. Exquisite Blood says whenever an opponent loses life, we gain that much life. So now all we need is to either make the opponent lose life or gain life ourselves to set off the chain. And with Witherbloom commands, we can make the opponent lose 2 and gain 2 ourselves. And our opponent's gonna go out on their own terms here. Alright, GG's, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and what do we think of this one? Plenty of removal, plenty of sweepers to deal with Orvar, and then Exquisite Blood to combo off. The problem is a lack of black mana, so I'm not going to be able to cast most of my spells. Take a mulligan. Okay, this one is missing a good removal spell for Orvar itself, but we can deal with a bunch of other permanents with Abrupt Decay and Witherbloom command. And then of course the Professor can be an answer as well. Yeah, this one's probably good enough. Opponent starting with the Gemstone Caverns. So they can already play a 2-drop on turn 1. And it's going to be an Arcane Signet, which I could Abrupt Decay here. Could also Witherbloom command to get rid of it. Although the second mode would be maybe wasted since I don't have a fetch lane to guarantee getting back. So yeah, let's just Abrupt Decay. Now Thoughtseize is useful, so we can have a peek. Mostly want to take care of counter spells that could stop our Planeswalker. So we'll see if they have a counter spell here. they do, mana leak. So we don't get to see. I'll just pass and then plan to maybe cling to dust. They can make their wizards uncounterable, including Orvar. Alright, we'll cling. And then for now, play Professor, destroy Orvar.
Congratulations. You have achieved your failure was certain.
And then we can start working up towards the ultimates. Eidetic Memory, we can still blow up with a Witherbloom command or Culling Ritual. So we'll have to see if they present more cheap permanents. Our opponent keeps up a bunch of mana. Not opposed to drawing with a Professor either, since this is going to be a resource-intensive battle. Damnation.
Tell me what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, I can just go for a Thragtusk, maybe get that countered. Could also attack with a Cottage to apply some pressure if we want to play around a counterspell. But yeah, I'm fine with my creature trading for some interaction. Thragtusk resolves, gaining 5. And even if they bounce this, I'll still get the Beast, because it's simply when it leaves the battlefield. Okay, now Shipwreck Dowser does not have a mana leak to get back, since we exiled it with Cling to Dust earlier. Okay, so Shieldred was a nice draw. Professor probably still wants to draw, maybe after we play Shieldred. So I can go Mind Stone into Shieldred. Possible our opponent's got a few blink effects to target the Dowser and get their blink spells back.
Learn something useful.
So then they could chump the Thragtusk, flicker the Dowser to get it back. Yeah, I guess we'll just sit back for one turn just to protect our Planeswalker, and then next turn I can look into attacking. Our opponent had a slip out the back, just to give Dowser a +1/+1 counter. So attacking with Thragtusk would not have accomplished much. They can use the Laboratory to return the Dowser to hand, as it is a wizard. Opponent's gonna pass a turn, draw Toxic Deluge. Alrighty. Still happy to draw with the Prof. And the library is excellent if we can get to 7 cards in hand, that is. Do not have a land in the graveyard for Witherbloom commands. Could always try to go for it, and hopefully we'll mill one. I'll start by sacking the Mind Stone. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get too aggressive. I'm kind of happy to just sit here, and then sooner or later we'll be able to leverage the library. So it's kind of on the opponent to make a move. This does have prowess, so they could have maybe pumped it up. And yeah, opponent's just gonna scoop it up here too far behind. We've got too many sources of card advantage going our way. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Ashling the Limitless, so an elemental evoke deck. Snuff Out should be effective. Got some ramp to play Professor turn 3. Not quite sure how many artifacts and enchantments our opponent is going to present. They might have a few. So overall, this hand's maybe lacking a board wipe, but I think it's good enough to keep. Turn 1 Llanowar Elves. Alright, there's my board wipe. So now I probably want to prioritize getting my snow lanes, although 4 of them is already enough to get back the Professor. Shared Roots and Glimpse will get basics. So I can still maybe Surveil here. Could have also gotten a Swamp right away for Snuff Out. But I'm kind of looking to answer Ashling instead. Can Snuff Out at any point, so we're not in a hurry. Polluted Delta is probably good enough. Alright, so we can Shared Roots, get a Swamp, and Snuff Out. Is there a reason to wait? Should probably do it now. Opponent did have a Gathering Stone, so good target for Pest Infestation. So I can go Signet into Pest Infestation. And then I could already Blood on the Snow, but I probably want to get more value off my commander first. Ashling is back. So yeah, just play the Prof. Destroy Ashling.
Mediocrity will not be tolerated.
And we can still Glimpse.
From my presence.
The Pests can protect my Professor, but if it gets destroyed, we can eventually get it back. So now I want to find more card draw engines to make sure we keep finding more action. Because our opponent will have some nice value plays they can make. Lots of elementals with powerful enter the battlefield abilities. And they do have pretty much every color here. Alright, looks like our opponent might have disconnected already. So we'll draw another card here. Additional Planeswalkers are welcome. But this game might be over. So we get to draw another land. Alright, just play Signet and pass. Don't have a whole lot going on. Could get more aggressive with the Pests, but don't really see a reason to. Alright, and that'll do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Anina, a blue-green X-Spell deck. We've got a keepable hand with a bit of ramp, some card draw, and then Withering Curse as a decent sweeper, especially if we can enable it with a Professor. So we don't mind seeing early mana creatures. Although Anina does have 3 toughness, so then we will need the life gain to actually destroy all their creatures. Swamp is good enough. We do need to hit some land drops. Snow-covered lanes for Blood on the Snow. There's not too many cards that will punish you for including them. The occasional Raidan. Opponent with their own Shared Roots. Keeping up blue mana, so most likely holding something like a Wash Away. Alright, so in that case, I think I just pass with a plan of using March on Anina, and then next turn I can play a 5 mana Vraska. So our opponent's gonna play their commander, leaving up Wash Away, presumably. I now get to March for X equals 3. And then Vraska, they cannot Wash Away. Casualties looking good too. Alright, so we'll see what their follow-up looks like. So if you can identify a card like Wash Away, you can sort of waste the opponent's mana by forcing them to keep up a blue every turn, And of course, as long as you have other useful plays you can make, you can kind of form a plan around it. Doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you just make them use it and then replay your commander on the following turn. Now a 3/4 Hydra, once again leaving up 1 mana. So yeah, Casualties of War looks good. This is an enchantment, so we can hit enchantment creature land. Maybe wait on activating Vraska in case they have some other counter spell here. Creature, enchantment, land. Creature, enchantment, land. And our opponent scoops it up, I'll take it. So yeah, we got to see this black-green life gain control deck in action. And yeah, the Professor is just a very solid card. Having access to a Planeswalker in the command zone that can draw cards, answer creatures, and gain life where needed is super useful. And then it's not too difficult to set up the emblem, which just wins the game on the spot if you pair it with a card like Exquisite Blood or the Bloodthirsty Conqueror. So yeah, overall a very solid deck. You could potentially replace Dellian with a different black-green Planeswalker or creature that kind of plays well in a control deck, and then you don't have to change too much about the deck. So it is quite interchangeable. It doesn't purely rely on its commander to win the game, so it can easily win without it, which is another good upside of this archetype in general. But of course, sometimes you do just steal a quick win with an emblem, which is nice too. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.